Hey guys, some gamer dude here. So I finally got to play the Godzilla card game. I feel I need to put a disclaimer here. I play the Godzilla decks and play Chrono Clash as a whole sealed. The decks remain the way they were when they were purchased. So my experience is going to be different from those that play constructed formats. Not majorly so, but enough that certain comments that I've read about the Godzilla card game aren't terribly relevant to my experience. I'll address them as we go. The Godzilla card game is the second release and second IP of Bandai's Chrono Clash system. If you haven't seen my review for the Chrono Clash system, a link will be in the description and I can summarize it here. It plays a lot like Duel Masters, but the Chrono Gauge gives it enough unique flavour to be its own entity. While I have issues with the speed of the game and the lack of defenses, I like the Naruto Boruto sets enough to pre-order the Godzilla set the following day after first playing it. Unlike the Naruto Boruto card game and the upcoming Evangelion card game, where the initial release was 2 sets of 2 decks, the Godzilla card game is one big set of 4 decks. These decks are loosely broken down into 4 themes. The Blue-Purple Mothra, focusing on the early 90s Mothra appearances and the rebirth of Mothra films. The Red-Green Mechagodzilla, focusing on the assorted mecha of the Godzilla franchise. The Green-Blue Showa/Shin Godzilla, focusing on the original Godzilla era and the recent Shin Godzilla film. The Blue-Red Heisei/Millennium Godzilla, focusing on the villains such as Biollante and Destoroyah of the 90s. The most notable thing here is that blue turns up 3 times, and purple only turns up once. I'm not sure why this is the case, and I'm sure it's annoying for constructed, but I suspect it's a case of not much fitting purple slice of the colour pie. Though I will admit, I haven't spent enough time really taking notice of the colour pie. It's not terribly prominent in Chrono Clash system as a game. Opening the package, there was one change from the Naruto Boruto sets I didn't like. Chrono Clash system promotes itself as an experience to pick up and play. The original sets reflected this well, as while it included all cards at play sets, they used the Chrono Gauge cards as a barrier to separate the spares from the intended deck. Godzilla and the upcoming Naruto Boruto expansions don't do this. They just present you with a 54 card deck instead. It's not a huge issue. 4 cards aren't that big of a deal. A half point of statistical change in drawing a specific card. It just feels like less effort on their part. What I will give them credit for is that the box can hold the deck sleeved quite nicely. You just have to put the extra decks at the sides on top of the decks, sleeved below the final piece of the internals. The pockets for the decks themselves are the perfect size for decks sleeved. Bit cumbersome, but I like the thought behind it. Godzilla introduced 3 new mechanics: Elusive, Toughness, and Sneak Attack. Elusive is represented by a dark blue figure in a light blue box and prevents the battler from being attacked by battlers without Elusive. I don't have an opinion on it because it didn't come up. Battlers with it was summoned, but the effect was never relevant. Toughness is represented by a dumbbell icon. When you summon a battler with Toughness, you can put a card from your hand underneath the battler for each instance of Toughness. Then, when the battler would be destroyed, if that battler has a Toughness card underneath it, that card is destroyed instead. Toughness is probably my favourite of the 3 new mechanics. I thought I wouldn't like it because of losing hand advantage, but you don't in reality. It's keeping things on board and your opponent has to spend more resources to get rid of it. It's somewhat akin to having a second copy with Fast. It also gives an out to cards you otherwise don't want, an alternate use. I really appreciate the staying power, and I have a little more to say about staying power later. Sneak Attack is the elephant in the room. It's a mechanic that met much ire. Sneak Attack is represented by a number in a gold circle in a sharp-toothed mouth. You can summon a battler with Sneak Attack for its Sneak Attack cost rather than its actual cost. It comes out attacking, even if you gave your opponent time, and is destroyed after the attack concludes. Now I've experienced Sneak Attack, I really don't know how to feel. Yes, Sneak Attack for game is an incredibly feels-bad mechanic, but Chrono Clash is already quick and largely lacks defensive measures. 2 of the decks, the Mothra and Heisei Millennium Godzilla decks, don't even have Sentinels in the decks. They both feel pretty bad actually. We played those first and my heart sank. Luckily the Mechagodzilla and Showa Shin Godzilla decks play much better. I think a lot of this comes from neither of us being willing to Sneak Attack over normal summon till it was 4 game. Giving up field presence, as much as the trade-off is worth it, didn't feel worth it until much later. Godzilla also introduces tap abilities, effects wherein the activation cost is to tap the card if it doesn't have summoning sickness. It turns out fine for cards where it's worth it, like Ghidorah, but for others like Little Godzilla, it's kinda crap. It's one of those case-by-case things. If the effect is worth giving up going after the Guardian stack, it's a good mechanic. If not, the card is just crap. It's nice having more variation in what the cards can do though. It makes the game feel more diverse mechanically and introduces less aggro. If anything, Chrono Clash could do with less aggro. What did take me off guard is how much better the few Sentinels that are here are, specifically Multi-Purpose Fighting System 3 and Godzilla the 4th Form. Only 4 cards that can be in the Guardian stack can surpass them, including themselves. Outside of that, Repel Godzilla Mission is the only card to deal with them outside of the extra deck. Godzilla lacks a Sakura equivalent that just nukes Sentinels. The power level to cost ratio is much lower, so things find it hard to kill a Sentinel. There are cards to shut off Sentinel, such as Godzilla the 2nd Form untapping them, and there is a mechanic here to depower battlers, but a lot more work has to be put into getting rid of Sentinels. They have staying power, and having to work past them feels good. It feels like it tones down the game to a more preferable speed. I think this is time for an SGD is a dope. I've been caught up in the concept of jump blockers. I never really thought about the prospect that Sakura and the raw power levels of the Naruto Boruto decks were the problem. That big beefy Sentinels were the correct design, but things have to be in tune with them. That Boruto, for an example, was fine. It was the set around him that was not. But different IPs are going to have different feels, and the different IPs are meant to be played separately. Sentinels are most likely not Naruto's strong suit due to the innate ability to smash right through them. This actually changes my perspective on Chrono Clash going forward, as I prefer the ability to slow down the game a bit. As I said, I didn't think much of the Mothra and Heisei Millennium Godzilla decks. They definitely fit the description many have given this set. Unsatisfying and over too quick. Just no meat to them, the game is over in a matter of turns. I didn't find this to be the case with the Mecha Godzilla and Showa Shin Godzilla decks though. Those felt satisfying. The games had more meat, went longer. Yes, sneak attack for game feels bad, but it was ultimately satisfying. Enough to overlook sneak attack. Just better overall. One thing I did notice that was universal for the decks was the 1-2 punch of the lower cost cards being fairly unimpactful, with the cards 5 and higher being the meat of the game. The gameplay felt heavy, but none of the big cards felt oppressive. I know this prior, it was just more pronounced than I expected. Small cards like Little Godzilla being pretty situational and arguably kinda crappy, while the big boys are clearly the focus. Unlike Naruto where tit for tat was the norm, it's more usual here to open with a 7 cost. The juxtaposition is actually really funny. This set contains what I'd consider to be the least fun experience Chrono Clash can provide so far, and what I'm willing to argue is the best one. I didn't get to try Godzilla vs Naruto as much as I would have liked. Only Mechagodzilla vs Boruto. Time constraints mostly. But I got the opposite result of what most people had as their experience. Mechagodzilla walked all over Boruto thanks to the power down effect, taking out battlers en masse. The Naruto decks also aren't as adept at playing with the bigger battlers off the bat, and toughness does help them not die to Guardian. This is of course a very small sample size and not constructed. Your mileage will vary. But I get the impression that when playing the decks in the condition they come, cross-IP combat is perfectly fine. One thing I do feel the need to address is the source of the images, and the potential for this set to be expanded upon. The images for the set come from Bandai's Battle Spirits card game, a popular game in Japan designed by Mike Elliott, the designer of Duel Masters. Chrono Clash used nearly all the images in this product, and there isn't enough left over for future products. This means that future products for Godzilla would have to be worth the investment for new art. Otherwise, Godzilla is a one and done product. Now we have seen the Naruto expansions, there is still character space for Naruto. A ton of characters, such as Obito, Madara, Killer Bee, Jin, Kin, Kaguya, Ebisu, new Boruto content, tons more, still left unmined. Godzilla will just have the options it has right now, and may fall back in terms of relevancy quite quickly. The only other way to circumvent this is to find another source of art, possibly Toho, or if Bandai does another Godzilla Battle Spirits release with the side purpose of reusing the art in Chrono Clash. After what I'd read of the Godzilla card game, I was filled with dread. I'd read nothing but complaints, and the general consensus was that Godzilla was a significant step down from Naruto. I'd regretted the pre-order based on others' experiences. Then we first started. My heart sank. Everyone was right. Those initial games were terrible. Then we changed decks, and it was a significant step up. It was fun. Not only that, it allowed me to look at aspects of the game in a different way. It was a good experience. Would I recommend the Godzilla card game though, when only half the product is good out of the box and chances are it's stuck like this? That's very hard. If you're interested in the IP, yeah, art is nice, otherwise unreleased outside of Japan, and the game can be fun. For those more interested in the Chrono system as a game, you're not missing much if you skip this one. Elusive and toughness are ongoing mechanics, and Naruto, at the very least, still has a ton of expansion potential past the upcoming expansions. This is definitely influenced by playing the decks the way they come, but I wasn't as disappointed as I expected with Godzilla. I'd say I enjoyed it. I think it says a lot that I want to play the decks more, and not just retreat to Naruto. This has been Some Gamer Dude, and thanks for watching.